I first met Coen at Anagram Coaching, and Coen was actually the master trainer at coaching sessions that we had. And what struck me about Coen was, how he was so perceptive, and he could ask the right questions that can effect breakthroughs in my life during that session, as well as the attendees of the course. So Coen is known as a highly sought after strategic business storyteller, a chief listening officer who attracts and empowers highly competent business leaders, professionals, and educators so that they are seen, heard, and respected. And he has more than 15 years of experience and has since been invited to speak and train at over 100 different companies in over 9 different countries. Today, we look into Coen's mindset, decision-making, how he overcame challenges in life to rise up to the top, and how he finds the courage to venture into the unknown and unfamiliar. So welcome, Coen, to the Game On podcast.
Hello, Joshua, and I'm very honored to be on your podcast today. I'm very excited. So looking forward to sharing what I know and what I've experienced.
Awesome. Thanks, Coen. You're known as a strategic business storyteller, chief listening officer. For those of our listeners who may not be familiar with you, could you tell us a bit about what you do?
Okay, first of all, I help business leaders. You're talking about senior leaders in MNCs, business owners, as well as directors in financial services institutions to attract people to their cause, inspire them to perform, and also to engender loyalty so they can keep the best talents with them. And so I help them to do this through storytelling, strategic storytelling. And why I call myself a chief listening officer is because since I was a very young boy, I was already an empath. I was a highly sensitive person. I was able to pick up in people's, cues from the environment about people's emotions. I always knew how people were feeling, and I was able to read people's intentions since very young. However, when I was very young, I never knew what to do with all this information that I was picking up. In fact, I was often told that I am too sensitive, too emotional, and I just thought it was actually a weakness. It is something that it is a bad thing that I want to overcome. However, as I gone through a lot of inner work, done a lot of work, as well as started working in coaching, in facilitation, working with people, I found that this is actually a superpower of mine. I was able to listen to what people were saying, what people were not saying, why they were not saying it. Maybe because they were not saying it because they didn't know how to say it. Maybe because they didn't even know they want to say it. And I was able to listen for all of these things. So that's why I think that listening skills is one of my key superpower, and that's why I call myself a chief listening officer.
So when you started as a young boy, right? You said that people find you a bit more sensitive. How was your perception then? Was it more positive or negative?
It was more negative, actually. For
Yeah.
example, I'm a very sensitive boy, and so I think I grew up in a time when boys were not supposed to be so emotional. So I was often, for example, if I were to see a sad news on television, I'll be crying. And my parents will be asking, why are you crying? It's like, you're a boy, And there were times when my father actually said, I worry for you in your future because you're a boy and you're not emotionally strong and tough enough. So it was actually not a good thing. I always felt it was something that's very weird about me. And it wasn't a good thing also because I was picking up a lot of emotions from the environment.
Sure.
And sometimes when I go to meet people, meet friends, meet relatives, I could pick up their emotions. I could feel how they're feeling. And sometimes I would, tell people about certain things, and they're like, "No lah, you think too much. How do you know all these things?" And so I really didn't know how to express myself at the time. So it was more of an Achilles heel rather than an advantage for me.
So it seems like you constantly, either suppressed or put down, for this gift that you have. How did you then turn it into an opportunity? And then, right now you're doing it for your business.
How did I turn it? So I think one of the turning points in my life was when I actually spent a couple of nights in the Institute of Mental Health. The reason I was there wasn't a very pleasant experience actually, because I was for many months I was already in a depressed state, and I was contemplating suicide, and that's the reason why I was actually brought there, because I was suicidal and I needed help. But when I was at the Institute of Mental Health, I was warded there, and I realized that there wasn't, single wards. I had to share the ward with other, patients, so to speak. And there I started witnessing people, the suffering that people had, people who had panic attacks, anxiety attacks, people who would, mutter to themselves. And so I asked the caregiver there, it's like, what's going on? Why are they talking to themselves? And the caregiver said, oh, they have, schizophrenia. And that's when I was exposed to all of these things. And that was when I had this profound realization that, there are people who are suffering more than I do. I cannot just be focusing only on my suffering. And I started getting more curious about why people are the way they are there. And I was thinking that if everyone had an opportunity to express themselves, and they were seen, they were heard, they were understood, they were accepted, they were loved, then maybe they wouldn't end up there. So that was a profound realization that I had. And so when I came out, it just coincided with a time when a friend of mine introduced me to coaching. So he introduced me to a coaching program. I went to the coaching program, dealt with a lot of my personal emotional baggages, and you can say the rest is history. I mean, the rest from that moment onwards, I realized that my life mission is to help people. And I started, attending different courses, NLP, Enneagram. I even attended classes in theater, improv, positive psychology. All of these things I was learning just to, build my strengths, build my capabilities to be able to, help more people.
So when you said help more people, and I noticed that, in your business, you're helping highly sought after, highly competent business leaders and so on, right? Is there a certain group of people that you want to reach out to, or yeah?
Definitely, a lot of these leaders, right? They started off with a very, very positive intention. They have a good heart. They want to make an impact on people. They are really heart-centered leaders. People who really want to make a positive contributions to, the employees, the people, the stakeholders they're serving, the customers they're serving. However, as leaders, right, they experience a lot of like stress, the stress to perform, the stress to progress, the stress to keep things going. And as a result of all of this stress, eventually they lose how do I say, they lose sight of the reason why they even started in the first place. And sometimes leaders in these organizations suffer from what's called the CEO disease, because they are the boss, they are the leaders, right? And here in Asia, there's a very huge power distance. So there were times that people do not, share things with the leaders. And sometimes as leaders, they are also expected to have the answers. They are expected to be the strong ones to keep things going. As a result of that, they become rather disconnected from the people. And so leaders like that come to me to help them to reconnect with their original intentions, to help them to tap into their own vulnerabilities, explore their vulnerabilities, share their stories so they can connect better with people.
Could you take us through an example, like a case study that you helped as a business leader, and what did he come to you for? What do you do, and what was the breakthrough that he experienced? Yeah.
Wow. So there was a financial services director that came to me. Of course, I wouldn't mention names. He was living in a very very big house. He had 3 cars, and he has an agency of 20 people in his agency. So by all matrices, he's already doing very, very well in life.
Yeah.
But he came to me and he said, Coen, I feel lonely and I feel disconnected with my people. I feel that there are times when, my people just come to me because I'm a successful salesperson. I have past track records that they admire. But whenever I try to train them, motivate them, inspire them, I feel that they don't understand my heart. They don't understand where I'm coming from. They actually disrespected me. So he wants to be able to better connect with his people. And so through working with me, it was quite an epic journey. Through the 1 year journey of working with me, he really, really uncovered a lot of his past stories, his back stories. And some of them were really, really epic. It's like how he was silenced as a child, how he was abandoned as a child. And all of these things started to surface. And I was able to help him to connect this backstory to his future story, his future identity. Who does he want to become? He wanted to become the respected leader that people look up to. And I also helped him to understand why he wants people to look up to him so much. In what way does he want people to respect him? And so I helped him to connect all of this together in a flowing narrative. So there was a master narrative and there were several other side stories to that. And as a result of one of his Facebook posting, one of the stories in which he shared, one cold market, one stranger reached out to him, and through that appointment, he was able to close the value, the amount of 3 times MDRT in one meeting. So that was like, I was super happy with for him.
Yeah, what a breakthrough that is in his life and his career as well. Oh, amazing.
And he was able to also recruit 3 people through another story that he posted. And all this not without any ad spend. They are just free. They are just organic marketing, organic posts. And he had many people reach out to him for coffee after that, and he was able to recruit 3 people through that Facebook post as well.
Oh, fantastic! Wow. I noticed that this specific person, right, that you mentioned about, he was problem aware, that he felt a bit lonely and so on. That's why he came to maybe request for your help. But could you share with us, like, when do you think someone would benefit from coaching?
I think that's a very interesting thing. I think a person will benefit from coaching when the person is problem aware, and the person has tried several other ways to solve the problem, but have not found a solution yet. Why do I say that? Is there are some people who, even though they are aware of the problem, they are on the search for a solution, but they come into coaching with very unrealistic expectations. They come into coaching expecting, you're the master, you're the guru, teach me, share with me. Sometimes people, in the case of this example, sometimes people may also just come into coaching because they want somebody to talk to. But you can talk to friends, you can talk to counselors, but coaching has a specific objective, a specific outcome. And so they have to be very clear about what is their specific outcome. And in this case, he wants to be a respected leader. He wants to be able to better express himself so that people understand his heart, instead of just random communications that is often missing the mark, or soon becoming nagging, right? And so he was looking for a more elegant way of communicating his intentions, his values, his heart, his principles in business. And I was able to help him to connect his personal stories to his business desires, his business outcomes. And so that was a sweet spot for me. So one of the things I look out for many people is, are they coachable? Do they have realistic expectations from coaching? And also, one thing I also look for me that I look out for is this person curious and willing to try new things. Sometimes people who come to me are already very successful people, and because they are already so successful, they have some bad habits or some way of thinking that has got them to where they are, but if they're not willing to let that go and experiment and try new things, then they wouldn't be able to seek their breakthrough to the next level. So I think people need to be very clear about what they hope to get out of coaching. Are they coachable? And thirdly, are they willing to try new things?
Thanks for sharing that, Coen. I'm curious to know, where does your form of coaching come in terms of the spectrum of, like counselors, and there's psychologists, and then there's coaches. Like, where does coaching fall into this spectrum?
Actually, coaching is very, very, very much also customized for the individual.
Yeah.
So, I have some ideas, super skills that I'm able to share with people I coach. However, they have to be willing to invest in themselves. They have to be willing to invest in the process, to trust the process. So, in terms of your question, for example, if a person is depressed, the person may not be the right candidate for coaching, just because the person is depressed. Right? If the person is depressed and the person is needing somebody to listen to them, help them through their challenges, their emotional struggles, then they may be better off seeing either a counselor or seeing a psychologist or to see a therapist. Because a therapist will be more able to help people in terms of the intervention, to help them to feel better about themselves, to help them to get out of that rut. For coaching, it usually is for people who already are at a certain level of functioning, and they are looking for breakthroughs. Of course, through the process of coaching itself, the process itself may uncover some past traumas, past experiences, past unpleasant emotional experiences, and through the whole process, it can be cathartic. However, the role of coaching is not specifically only to heal people, but also to bring people, to help them to transform that pain, that suffering into something that something there's a power, there's a passion that they can be able to reclaim their voices, they can reclaim their power, reclaim their freedom, reclaim hope, and so that they can move forward in life. And then coaching also help them to explore different strategies so that they can function even better moving forward. So that's the slight distinction between counseling, therapy, and coaching.
Sure. Thanks for helping us to have a bit more clarity in the area, Coen. I'd like to ask, as a coach and trainer yourself, where do you learn what you learned to be this highly effective and sought after?
Wow. It is a pretty long journey as well. Like I said, I've learned many things. However, I want to say one thing is that I think here in Singapore or here in Asia, a lot of us tend to think about learning in modular bite-sized formats. So for example, if I'm learning NLP today, I'm learning NLP tomorrow. If I'm learning, if I enroll in a cooking class, I'm learning cooking. However, I personally believe that a lot of things in life can be intertwined. For me, for example, a case in point is in order to be a great storyteller and to coach storytelling, I do not only learn from storytellers and professional speakers. As a professional speaker myself, and also hanging out with fellow professional speakers, I was able to learn a lot from them. However, where things really moved the needle and shifted the needle is when I went to London to learn improv theater from Keith Johnston, the founder and inventor of improv himself, right? And I from there I learned a lot about what makes compelling drama, what makes compelling scenes, right? I learned things like power play, status, and status play and all that. So I learned different ways in which, people tell stories on stage. And then I also learned storytelling from, screenwriters. I subscribe to masterclass, and so I often consume masterclasses, from Hollywood award-winning screenwriters, scriptwriters. Why? Because these people make a living on writing stories. They sink or swim based on the stories that they write, whether the stories they write are compelling enough to be translated into the big screen. And so it's fascinating and compelling for me to learn, all the dynamics at play to make a compelling story. So I've learned, storytelling from advertisers. I've learned storytelling from National Geographic photojournalists. I learned storytelling from screenwriters. So I learned it from different places.
Photojournalists as well.
Yeah. So,
what convinced you to say that, hey, I'm going to learn from this photojournalist?
I think first of all, I'm just a very curious cat. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm a very curious person. I have a lot of curiosities. When I see something that fascinates me, I'm like, I'm like, I want to go and learn that.
Yeah.
And so I read a lot. I meet a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. I enroll in many courses, programs to learn from different people. Yeah. So anything that really tickles my curiosity, I'm like, yeah, I want to go and learn that. So. But of course, I saw the storytelling aspect of that because I want to learn the thought process behind how a person sees something. For most people, they see a picture, they see a scene, they see a scene. But a photojournalist see a scene and sees the story within the scene. Then how their brain functions to concoct that story. How do they compose that story in their mind? How do they capture pictures to tell that story? And so for me is to capture the thought process, because the thought process is the meta skill that undergirds compelling storytelling. It's more than just, okay, how do you tell a story? More than that, more than just all of that. So I have a lot of curiosities, and I learn from multiple domains, how do I say, from different places, and I'm able to reflect on all the things I learn and ask, okay, how can I borrow this idea from here and place it somewhere else, right? How can I apply this somewhere else? In my training workshops, I use a lot of role plays, a lot of theater techniques, a lot of improv techniques to help my participants to experience something for themselves and gain breakthroughs and transformations.
Oh, okay. If we take it up a bit higher, you talked about education as, being someone like yourself and myself, where we went through the education system where it's singular, modular, right? And right now you learned that actually learning can be intertwined. If you could be in control of, the education system, right? How would you redefine learning?
That's a big question, bro.
Chunk up, right?
Okay, I mean, if you learn, if you understand the word education, right, came from the Latin word educare, EDUCARE. Actually, educare, if you really break it down, right, it means to draw out. So a lot of times, I think we think of education as an empty glass. A person's brain is an empty glass, and you just fill in with information. You fill in with a mathematical formula. You fill in with geography knowledge, historical knowledge, and then you go to the exams and you regurgitate all of that. Unfortunately, I think that is just a very small part of education. I think education is really about drawing out what is really within a person, drawing out what is really what is the brilliance, what's the power, what's the super sensitivity about the person. Right. So some people, I mean, I've met a lot of interesting people in my life. It's like when I meet a connoisseur, a wine connoisseur, or I meet a perfumerist, right? And I'm always very fascinated by what is it about them that leads them down this career pathway, right? To be a perfumerist, you need to have ultra sensitivity to scent. You need to have a very keen olfactory sense. So I think education is about seeing a person's, superpower. What is a sense that the person has that is, there is a superpower, that is, how do I say, the person has a super ultra sensitivity in one particular domain, to notice it, to see it, and giving that person the opportunity to draw that out. So when people start to lean into that, they are given opportunities to explore it. They love it. They are passionate about it. They are willing to go to great lengths to explore it further, and then they will then be able to do some sense making, do the research necessary to make sense of it, and that's how they become perfumerists, right? For example, for me, I'm very fascinated by gin. I love to drink gin, but my friends love to drink whiskey. And for me, I don't have the same interest in whiskey as my friend, right? Just as my friend don't have the same interest in gin as I do. So different people have different, interests. It is education is about giving people the opportunity to explore their super sensitivities, so that you can draw out their brilliance, empower them, and give them the passion to pursue it further.
Oh, fascinating. This is a very refreshing definition. I didn't know that education came from educare. Wow, this is new stuff, cool stuff, man. Thanks, Coen, for sharing that.
It's a very interesting thing for me, actually. I want to share. I was just discovering this with my coach recently as well. My coach asked me this question. He's like, Coen, what are you willing to suffer for? You see, as entrepreneurs, as people who are looking to find our own passions in life, when you say you want to explore your passions, you want to follow your passions, you want to be able to do what you love to do so that you can serve more people and make a good living. A lot of that, right? When you decide to do that thing, the moment you decide to do that thing, right, you are already signing up for the path less taken. And the path less traveled, right, is always fraught with more, uncertainty. And you need to suffer. You need to realize that you're signing up for that suffering, to speak. Because when there's uncertainty, it's a road less traveled. You need to go the extra mile. You need to research more. You need to study more. You need to, spend time with that craft, to hone that craft, to become so good at it so that people will start to notice you, right? So that is a path you're signing up for. That is the suffering that you're signing up for. And that leads me back to the word passion. Many people in today's world talk about following your passion and therefore you'll be able to make money and start a business. I think that's bad advice. That's really bad advice, because I don't believe following your passion can definitely help you to make money and start a business. If you really understand the word passion, it comes from the Latin word patio, P-A-T-I-O. And you just go and Google very quickly, it's like passion, and then you type E-T-Y-M-O-L-O-G-Y, etymology. What you get is, the idea of suffering.
Yeah,
that's right. So passion is suffering, right? So, and many people say, I'm passionate about this, I'm passionate about that. And I ask them, great, if you're passionate about floorball, would you be willing to train 3 times a week for 3 hours? If
that's
you say you're passionate about your triathlete, right? Are you willing to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, get your 10 kilometers run before you go for work? If you're not willing to do that, then don't tell me you're passionate about that, because you're not willing to suffer for it. You have to make sacrifices. You have to be willing to suffer for it. So I think of it as kind of choosing your suffering. And so for me, like I said, I asked a lot of my friends, would you go all the way to London to learn improv theater? They said no. Would you go and learn from scriptwriters? No. Would you be interested to learn from photojournalists, how they compose stories? No. Well, if you're not passionate about that, then you wouldn't be willing to invest the time, energy, effort required to get good at it. But because I'm passionate about it, because I am willing to do all of that, because it's fun to me, I cannot imagine not doing it. So for me, everyone has their own area of passion. So the thing is, understand what are the things that you're willing to suffer for, and go do it.
I like to lead on to a thought where some people say that in their job they don't necessarily have to be passionate about it, so long as it pays the bills. But then another school of thought says that you should only do what you're passionate about. What do you think about this too?
You see, if you think that you are not passionate about your job and you're just doing it to pay the bills, unfortunately, you're signing up for a life that is not, is a lesser life, because over time, you will start to see that life force draining from your body. You know, like as I'm talking to you right now, I mean, life force is draining, is not draining, is overflowing in me, right? Like I'm passionate. You can tell I'm passionate about what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I want to feel alive. I really, really want to feel alive. Especially last year, I turned 40. This year, I'm 41. And I asked myself, what would really make me come alive? And it's really a very, very poignant time to ask this question, because I haven't traveled for over 2 years. Traveling makes me come alive. Meeting people, learning about different cultures makes me come alive. I'm a very curious person. And, you know, with COVID-19 and, you know, travel restrictions and everything, I think it's a very poignant time to ask ourselves, what makes us come alive? Because some of us just settle for, you know, a life that is just, you know, going through the motions, doing something you're not passionate about just to pay the bills. You do not want to come to the end of your life one day when, you know, I read this quote before. One day your life will flash before your eyes. Is that a movie worth watching? And so I think to myself, no, I don't want that, right? So if you are just going through the motions, what you're doing is you're just, you know, living one day at a time, you know, everything. And one day you come to a moment when you ask yourself, what did I actually achieve? What actually did I do? Well, I paid the bills, but did you really come alive, right? And many people will say, you know, I'm a parent, you know, I have children and everything. I cannot, you know, do all these things. But I think the best kind of parenting you can give, the best kind of role model you can be for children, is to show them what it's like to be fully alive. And I think that the world in the future is full of opportunities, right? You know, role play coming alive, and then you actually be the best role model for your children as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like a Marie Kondo for your life, right? Does it spark joy? Like, does it make you come alive? Well, that's a very sobering question to ask and reflect on. Yeah.
There's a caveat though. For example, if you, say you are an engineer, okay, in a company, and you may not really say that you are passionate about engineering. Maybe you went into this line because you had a degree in this line. I mean, you had a degree in engineering, and you know, obviously you chose the most obvious career path. But if you are working for a company, the question I have for you, if that's you, is how can you find ways to add value to your company? How can you find ways to add value to the stakeholders that you're working with? How can you find ways to serve your customers, your suppliers, your boss, your internal customers better, right? And when you ask yourself that question, then you will find that you are not just an engineer. You're not just a designer. You're not just an admin person. When you always find ways to improve the experience of other people working with you, then you are actually adding true value to people. And if you're like, Coen, I don't know, I do not know anything about all these other things, then find out, you know, be curious, go out there, ask people, what do you need? How can I serve you better? How can I do my job better so that it can make your job easier, right? And so when you ask this question, then people will say, wow, nobody has actually asked me that question before, right? And then now you are able to still do your job, but do your job +1. You're able to do your job better than yesterday. You are growing day after day after day. You're becoming better and better at your job. And you're able to marry all of these other soft skills, problem-solving skills, entrepreneurial skills to your skill sets as an engineer. Now, you are not only paying the bills, you are paying the bills in a better way, because sooner or later people will notice how much value you're adding to people, and you'll be given more opportunities to shine. You'll be given promotion opportunities. You may be promoted to manager. You're gonna increase your paycheck. Then now you're also coming more alive, because you're able to provide your family with a better lifestyle. You're able to go to a restaurant and not look from right to left, but look from left to right, because you choose what you like, not what you don't buy. What is the price based on what the price point? So you are really coming alive, because you are now able to take holidays further to Europe, to different places, instead of just nearby places. So that is also another way of coming alive. So just to share that perspective, not everybody should be an entrepreneur, not everybody should be self-employed, because it's not suitable for everyone. But even if you are working on a very so-called mundane job, you can still find ways to add more value and come alive.
Love that. Yeah, I hope some of the listeners are actually taking notes. This really hits home. Coen, back to the thought about passion equals suffering or sacrifice, right? Could you share more about what was the greatest business challenge that you overcame, to be where you are today, where you are invited to speak over 100 companies in over 9 countries, with over 15 years of experience? Shed some light into this, please.
Actually, much as I'm telling you story about all this passion and everything, I really suffered and paid the price for my passion. When I was young, I was blindly passionate. When I started my own company and wanting to become a trainer speaker, I was passionately going for seminars after seminars after seminars. I remember attending many of these personal development seminars that will cost me 5-figure, and I've blown my entire life saving, of all the years of working and saving that I've accumulated. I've blown it all on all these personal development courses. Meanwhile, while I was passionately and learning and growing I thought I was growing myself, I wasn't actually able to take the appropriate actions to translate that into business income. Because I was new to this industry as a trainer, as a speaker, as a coach, I had trouble getting clients. A lot of clients will ask me, like, what makes you different from XYZ speaker, trainer, coach? Why are you so expensive? Can you give us a discount? And people are often say, can you come and speak to our lunch and learn, and just for free, because it'll give you exposure. And at the time I was like, why not, just go, right? But I didn't know how to, translate all of those so-called exposure into business. And I was dependent on other training providers giving me training opportunities, which were, like enrichment programs in schools, paying me $50 an hour. And so I would only get a couple of these gigs every month. As you can imagine, income was slow to trickle. There were months where I made absolutely no money at all. And it all came to nadir in 2013, when I was outside Katong Shopping Center. I was there to actually print handouts for upcoming training program I was going to conduct. But after paying for the printing, I didn't have enough cash in my wallet for lunch. So I went to the ATM and draw money, and I saw the words that I never want to see ever again, and I wish nobody ever sees again. And the words were insufficient funds. And so I had to call my mom. And I said, no, mommy, can you transfer like $50 to me so that I can, I can draw money from ATM, so I can, buy lunch. So that was the low point moment in business. Meanwhile, I was nursing my passionate dream to be a world-class speaker, but I wasn't doing the things necessary. I was a bit caught up in my own ego. I see a lot of other successful speakers around me, and they were doing so well. I felt inferior. I felt jealous at some point. And so I stayed away from them because I didn't want them to see me in this broken state. But I think the moment when I had to borrow money from my mom as a 32-year-old adult just to buy lunch, really, the penny dropped. And I said to myself, I had to humble myself. I had to eat humble pie. I had to stop pretending that I am a passionate person on the way to become a world-class speaker. But I have to eat humble pie by turning to these successful speakers and asking them, how did you become so successful? What did you do? Can you share with me how to become better at what I do? Can you share with me how do I better market myself, sell myself, so I can grow my business? And so that was the time when I started reaching out to mentors. Instead of paying a lot of money for all these personal development programs, I really reached out to people who are just like you and me. I know your show is normal, ordinary people doing extraordinary things, right? That was exactly what I was thinking. I reached out to people who apparently look so ordinary. They don't like drive flashy cars, or they're not always flaunting their success, but they're able to slowly and steadily build their business. So I reached out to them and I told them my predicament. It was tough, bro. It was tough.
Yeah.
It's not easy to walk up to someone and say, hey, bro, I'm broke.
Yeah.
Can you teach me how to make money?
Yeah.
It's tough. I've seen so many people who, because of ego, they do not want to be vulnerable and share this. So thankfully, I'm blessed. I've got good mentors who took me under their wings, showed me the way, even brought me to sales meetings with them, and I learned a lot from them. One of them was a mentor that I always was very thankful for. He's somebody who is a very successful speaker at a very young age. But in spite of his success, right, he's always willing to share and mentor other people. So when I followed him for his speeches, followed him for his sales meetings, I've learned a lot from him. And some of the skills I've learned from him, I still use today. So yeah, I think having mentors are very important.
Yeah.
And but first of all is to be humble and to eat humble pie and to be able to put aside your ego.
Yeah. Could you share with us, that defining moment where, you saw that insufficient balance in your bank account, and it was, should I give up this dream, this passion of mine, and should I pursue, something with a salary or something? But why do you say, okay, I'm gonna still continue pursuing it?
Actually, there was a period of time when I was going through a hard time. Even before this, okay, even before this, I went back to a salaried job.
Yeah.
But I only lasted for a month, because when I went into the job, the pay was decent, was okay. But I had a lot of ideas that I presented to the big boss, about what we can implement, what we can do, because I was, quite entrepreneurial in my thinking, right? I wanted, to try new things. But I soon very quickly realized that not everybody liked my innovative ideas and my proactiveness in that. And I was actually bullied by another senior leader in the company. So after 1 month of that, I actually resigned in tears. That was quite a moment for me as well, because I said, no, I just can't do this anymore, even after only just 1 month. So I realized that working with other people was probably not the way for me to go. So that made me want to double down into striking it on my own. And I also felt that the reason why I want to give it one more go is because I haven't really given it a really good shot. I was doing a lot of what I call token gestures. Like I said, posting on social media about how good I am. Actually, I was suffering. All of these are just token gestures at this thing. And I realized that I wasn't really very serious about my business. I was just trying it out. So a passion project, right? For a lot of people, is like a hobby, So I always tell people, if you're passionate about something, invest the time to get good at it. Do not quit your day job. Really, do not. Some people are like, you know what? You need to quit your day job. Go pursue your passion, build a business, start a business. I think that's not good advice, because if you quit your day job and money's not coming in, you're gambling. you're not actually an entrepreneur, you're just a gambler.
Yeah.
Secondly is when money's not coming in, your emotions will be going up and down, and
Very
and you're
stressed.
very
Yeah.
stressed. You cannot think clearly, you cannot think properly. Your actions are not guided by wisdom and grace. Your actions are just guided by desperation and passion, and that's not a good way to be. So I recommend a few books for you to read. It's like one of the books is "Be So Good They Cannot Ignore You" by Cal Newport. That's one of the books that really changed my life. So if you are looking to pursue a side hustle, for example, speaking or training, go sign up for a Toastmasters club. Join a Toastmasters, improve your craft, hone your public speaking skills, become so good that they cannot ignore you, and then you slowly start getting more invitations to speak. Then once you have at least some basic income to replace your work income, then you can consider quitting your job. Do not quit your job to do something, scatter your boats, burn your boats. I think go big or go home, that is not the way to go. Because
that's wise advice. Yeah.
Very often I see a lot of people burn out. I did that, and I don't want you to feel that. I don't want everyone to go through that again. I went through all this folly so that I want listeners at home not to do what I did.
Yeah. When if you could, start all over again, what would you do differently to build your business?
I think one of the things I learned is, right, it's not about how much you do, it's about the quality of what you do. So I always tell people who are looking to start a business in training, coaching, is few strategic steps executed well. If I were to be able to start over again with knowing what I know today, I would really seek out mentors very early, learn from them. What are the strategic actions they took? It's like the Pareto principle, right? The 20% actions that will get you 80% of the results.
Sure.
So these strategic actions executed well is going to help you accelerate your success in whatever industry and whatever business you do. Go into it opening your eyes. When I started my own business, I was driven by passion. I was hot-headed all over again. And that's the lesson that if I were to rewind the clock, I would have changed that. So yes, be passionate. Yes, like I said, be passionate, but don't be blinded by passion. Ask yourself, are you willing to suffer for it? If you're not willing to suffer for it, then don't start. Number two, seek out mentors. Find out what are the few strategic moves that you need to make that will help you. One strategic move that I made was when I started reaching out to my fellow speakers in the Speakers Association. I found out that some of these very successful speakers have certain projects that they don't have the time or bandwidth to do, or maybe the clients just don't have the budget to pay for their services. And when I started working with these successful speakers, some of them groomed me to take over their programs, and they have opportunities in KL, Manila, and I remembered in end of 2013. The first time I ever did an overseas training gig. I remembered arriving at the Changi airport, checking in my bag. I was like, first time I'm traveling to train, to speak. And even though the pay wasn't very high, but when I arrived at the hotel, I felt like, wow, everything is paid for. Hotel is paid for, air ticket is paid for. I'm like, I'm an international speaker. It's the first time I actually been to Manila, right? And Manila is a hustling, bustling city with traffic jams. But I remember everything. I was just taking every single thing in because I was like, wow, I've arrived. So it's like my identity has changed that very day. So that also came about because I was humble enough to reach out to some of these more successful people. Instead of envying them, instead of being jealous of them, instead of being inferior to them, I ask myself, how can I learn from them? I ask myself these questions. How can I add value to them? How can I be of service to them? And that's how I got more and more opportunities. So since then, a lot of my opportunities, the early opportunities I've got, I credit them to my mentors.
Speaking of mentors, I mean, you definitely you had both eyes open before you sought these people out, right? um, how do you decide on the mentors? How do you qualify that?
Fascinating question. When you're starting out, you have this. Recently, I was reading this book called Rookie Smarts by Liz Wiseman, and I really love that idea of the book because it speaks a lot to me. When you have a beginner's mindset, you are very open to absorbing anything. You're like a sponge, right? So you will seek out every and any mentors, right? So you may not be so selective about mentors. However, you need to be selective about what you take on from the mentors. And as a beginner, okay, so there are many contexts to it. The first context is that as a beginner, you seek out many mentors, and whatever they tell you, right? My principle is this: do it once. So, for example, it says, Coen, go do this. I will say, okay. I'll turn around and go do it immediately. I'll apply immediately.
Immediately, right?
And why I say once, not twice, at least once. Why? Because if I do it once, then I will be able to experience what it's like to do it. And sometimes when the mentors tell me to do something, I'll go do it once and I realize, no, this is not quite me, because this strategy or this action doesn't make use of my best talents. I don't feel right doing it. And then I would respectfully tell the mentor, say, thanks very much for your advice. And then I would decide, I will move on to do something else instead. But every now and then if you do everything once, you would find that there are few things that really works for you specifically. And you'll find the one or two things that you enjoy doing. And then what happens? You rinse and repeat lah. Then you do again and again and again, and it continues to get you the right results. So at the start, right, when you seek a mentor, maybe you're not so discerning. You just find anyone and everyone who you think is successful. Good. Do not be so discerning about the mentors you choose, but be discerning about what you take on. And my advice is do it at least once. However, as you progress and becoming better at what you do, you become more and more conscious and aware of what are your strengths and what are not your strengths. So sometimes when some things are not your strengths, you may decide to outsource it, or you may decide to delegate it, or collaborate with people who have these strengths, right? So however, if there's something that's not your strength, but it is still important for you to develop and grow so they can grow your business, now seek out mentors who have that specific strength. Yeah. And then always be an open book. Listen. And again, my same principle, do it once. If the mentor tells you to do it, just do it once. And this is very fascinating because as I now mentor other people who are up and coming, I ask them to do something. Sometimes they'll ask me questions like, why should I do it? I don't want to do it. And that to me, I mean, I'm not trying to say that I'm very clever or I'm very smart, but I only share what has worked for me. I wouldn't ask people to do things that I wouldn't do myself.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I ask you to do it, or if I advise you to do it, at least do it once. Just do it once. That's it. And if you can come and tell me, say, no, Coen, that doesn't work. Okay, fine. Right. I'm not so attached to it. I wouldn't be upset if you don't adopt it further. Right. Yeah. But at least be willing to do it once.
That speaks to me also.
Yeah. I'm having so much fun here.
All right. Yeah. See here.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask, on your blog, you shared that your deeper purpose in life was to give hope and healing to people by igniting their inner voice. Yeah, so quoting you. So could you share with us why this is so important to you?
Thanks for asking the question. Growing up, like I said, I was a very emotional boy. So whenever I express myself or say certain things, my dad will say this to me. He says, whatever you share, what you say doesn't pass the common sense test. And he also told me this one line, that boys should be seen and not heard. And it's funny that, it's ironic to think I'm a professional speaker today as well. So for me, I've always felt silenced. I felt that I lost my voice. And in school, when I was in secondary school, I was bullied a lot, and again, I felt that I've lost my voice. So, and that's the reason why, I have embarked on this journey of finding my voice. There are a couple of examples of me finding my voice. I remembered when I was in secondary school, I was role playing in literature class, a particular scene from Macbeth, and I was teased, and I was bullied by my classmates. Said that Coen is crazy. He should be sent to the mental hospital.
Yeah.
So that hurt me a lot, and I became very shut down after that. I don't want to speak out in class anymore. I kept to myself, largely to myself. That was until I went to university, when in NTU, we had opportunities to select an elective program. And instead of learning something, something that I'm not interested in, I decided to learn language. And so I somehow stumbled into learning French. And I recall when I first walked into French class, I was so intrigued, and I felt like I found my home. And when the professor asked, who would like to volunteer to do a role play? Of course I volunteered, because I'm like, well, we are all beginners again. We are all learning French together. Nobody can laugh at me because you don't know any better than me, right? So I volunteered, and wow, I love it so much. And I ended up studying 2 years of French, and I was nominated for the Best French Language Award student, even though my results weren't stellar, but my enthusiasm for the language helped me a lot. So that is one of the episodes that kind of like helped me to recover my voice. In terms of public speaking, I have to thank the Toastmasters. When I first joined the Toastmasters in 2007, I was way into my adulthood. I wished I had learned that way early in my life.
Yes.
The power of public speaking, the safe space where I can practice, I further found my voice. So having been somebody who was silenced and having found my voice, I want to help, people to reclaim their voice and set their hearts free. I've learned improv theater. I also learned acting classes, took up acting classes as well, so that I can, be able to be more, not say dramatic, but be more expressive in the way I communicate, so that, I can capture people's attention. So I've learned it the hard way, being ignored and neglected. So I am also in a good place to teach, coach, and train other people how to become more compelling presenters, public speakers, how to have more, executive presence when they speak, so that they can be more seen, heard, respected.
Thanks, Coen. I would like to ask, what are you preparing to do next, in your business?
Yeah. Oh, thanks for asking that question. And here's two things that I'm working on. I'm very passionate about them. The first one is my book. It's called Magnetic Storytelling. I have been, as I mentioned a lot, I've been studying a lot of storytelling techniques and storytelling, dynamics. And I've been also studying about characterization and archetypes for a long time. And archetypes is not new, right? There's a lot of work by other psychologists like Carl Jung, Carolyn Myss, on archetypes, and a lot of brand consultants talks about archetypes as well. But archetypes are so powerful because they are, they are proxies through, they are proxies for the way we see people. There are proxies through which we form our own identity. Yeah. So I've been studying archetypes for a long time, and I found a way to categorize these archetypes in a way to understand, to help people understand why you connect better with certain people, why you are attracted to certain people, and why you are more compelled and excited to sign up for certain types of causes.
Okay.
CAUSES
Oh,
courses.
okay,
Like,
right.
yeah. So why are you compelled to sign up for this course? You know, for example, I may not be as excited about, for example, eliminating one-use plastics, but I may be more excited about, for example, setting people's hearts free, helping people
Yeah,
reclaim their voices.
yeah.
Yeah. So I've been studying all of these things already, and I found a way to categorize all this, and I'm so excited to to put all of that into that book that I'm writing.
Yeah.
So I'm aiming to launch that book by early 2023. So that's the first thing that I'm working on. The second thing I'm working on is I want to start a podcast, and that's why I may need a lot of your help, Joshua, because
Love to help where I can, bro.
I'm passionate about listening to people's stories,
I see.
and
Yeah, me too.
I want to bring these stories to more people, and so I'm looking to start a podcast late sometimes in middle of this year. I am getting my designer to work on the podcast art, the design, and lining up my guests. So, but I don't really have a so-called follower list yet. So I need to learn how to grow my follower list on podcast. I have followers on social media and everything, but I just want to get them excited and interested in this podcast. So that's what I'm working on.
Oh, cool. We're excited. I'm really looking forward to these two things that you're coming up with. Coen.
I'm excited too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that you read a lot. You read widely, read deeply as well. You have a whole reading list. And I think in our conversation of past, you said that you jog every day as well, at 6:30 or something. Yeah. How do you find time, amidst your busy schedule to do all this?
To tell you the truth, right, to be very, very honest with you, the real reason for me to exercise is I'm very vain, very hiao basically. I mean confession, right? Because when I was in secondary school, I was 99 kilograms, and I was teased mercilessly and bullied for my weight. So even though I'm a foodie and I love food, I still prioritize not being out of shape and everything. And I think it's important for me in my line as well as a speaker, if I'm not on top of my form, then people would want to listen to me, right? But beyond being vain, right, I found a new reason, and I thank James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. James Clear says, do not set the habit just for the sake of the habit, but set a habit because of the identity you want to become, because of the person you want to become. So when I put on my shoes every morning to go for my jog, for my walk and jog, so I jog a bit and I walk and I jog and I walk because I have bad knees, so I do not want to strain it too much. But I do at least 5 kilometers every morning. I just did about 6 this morning. I do that, and every time when I do that, I repeat this mantra to myself. I want to be fit and I want to be full of vigor. I want to be alive and full of vigor, right? So I don't say I'm jogging. I don't say I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. Because when you say I want to lose weight, what are you actually signaling to yourself? I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat. I mean, look, if you're just telling yourself 24/7 how fat you are or how you need to lose weight, then how motivated can you be?
It's true.
You can't be motivated for long. You can say, yeah, I have willpower. My willpower will keep me going. I'm sorry to say this. Willpower has limitations, right? Willpower has limitations. So you will run out of willpower sooner or later. So you need to find a bigger reason why you're doing it. So for me, the bigger reason is I'm 41 already. I want to age gracefully, and I want to still stay fit and full of vigor to do the work that I love to do and to travel the world that I love to travel. So that's the reason. That's the compelling reason why I continue doing that. And I thank James Clear for that. As an Enneagram Type 4, I mean, if you know me, I'm given to my moods. I'm emotional, but when I read James Clear book, I realized that is the system, that's a routine that I need to have for myself. And I'm doing it not because I want to lose weight. I'm doing it because I want to become the fit person, the identity of the fit person that can add more value to other people's life. So I can continue to do what I love to do. And on top of that, every day when I go jogging, I have my me time and I put on my earbuds and I listen to podcasts. I consume podcasts and ebook. So if I cannot read, I listen as well. So I'm a lifelong learner, and and I'm a lifelong learner that way. Yeah.
But I can see that you're really highly like productive. Even while jogging, you're also learning. Yeah, podcasts or ebooks are amazing.
It
What
is.
are
It is.
what are some of the other habits that you've taken on in your life that has changed it for the better?
Great question. Again, when I turn 40, which is pivotal for many people, I think, when I turn 40, I ask myself, whenever I take on something, right, I ask myself 3 questions. The first question is, does it spark joy in me? Really, it's a Marie Kondo question. Does it spark joy in me? Does it make me come alive? The second question is, does it bring me closer to my goals? And third question is, does it help me make use of my unique gifts and strengths? So these are the 3 questions I ask myself before I take on anything. So one of the things that I do is I love to cook. I like to experiment with different dishes. Because I'm a foodie myself, whenever I go out to a restaurant, I eat something, I'm like, this is interesting. How did they make this? And I'll try to recreate it at home. So learning to cook sparks joy in me. Because cooking sparks joy in me. It just makes me come alive. Secondly, it makes use of my unique strengths because I am very sensitive. So I'm sensitive to taste as well. So I try to experiment. So it brings me closer to my goals because I just love to eat. So that's one. The second thing I do is I love to play pool. So I have a couple of friends that I play regularly with. I just love the game of pool because it helps me to focus on being myself.
Yeah.
Because to execute a pool shot is not just about strategizing and placing the ball and everything and be accurate with your shot, but you have to control your breathing. You need to control your body movement, because if you want to shoot a very good shot of pool, execute a good shot, your entire body must be still. The only thing that's moving is your cueing arm. It means your elbows are bent and you're moving the cue. The rest of your body must be absolutely still. Then your aiming is straight and your shot is accurate.
Right.
And so that stillness is very important to me because I live in a very hustle bustle life. I got 1,001 things to do.
Yeah.
My mind is always constantly in so some people does meditation. Meditation is hard for me. So what I do is I do breathing exercises and I play pool. So pool is sort of my meditation. It helps me to focus better, concentrate better. And of course, I love the game. So it makes me come alive. So what I say to my friend, to listeners here, do what you love. Nurture the inner child in you. Because you can just keep going, but you will one day burn out.
Yeah.
Because your inner child is crying and screaming for your attention. It's wanting to come alive. If you're just working for the sake of working and you're not nurturing your inner child, one day you lose that life force inside you. Nourish that in you.
Could you help some of our listeners and myself as well? Like, how do you identify your unique gift and strengths?
Wow, very deep question. You could ask yourself this question is, what are you very sensitive to? What are you very sensitive to? For example, if you walk into a room, what is the first thing you notice? To tell you the truth, the first thing I walk into a room, the first thing I feel is the emotions of the room. I can walk into a room full of people and I can kind of feel like, I think people here are feeling very anxious. I can feel the anxiety. And I feel anxiety inside my body. I feel the same anxiety. And that tells me that the room is full of anxious people. So that is my sensitivity. Right. But that may not be your sensitivity.
Sure.
Maybe your sensitivity could be a sense of smell, a sense of taste. Then maybe you could be, like I say, a perfumerist, or you could be a wine connoisseur. You could be a baker. Maybe you're more sensitive to, fixing certain problems, right? Maybe if some people are good at fixing IT issues, computer problems. Maybe you're good at, you're ultra sensitive to conflict, right? If you see people who are not getting along with each other, it makes you feel very uncomfortable, it makes you feel very uneasy, then you are very ultra sensitive to conflict. Then lean into that sensitivity and ask yourself, now with this sensitivity, what can I do? What am I picking up? What info, what data am I picking up from the environment? And what can I do about it? And if you realize that you have this gift for helping people to resolve conflicts, you have this gift for bringing people together, then that is a gift. And very often, the second thing is this: many people who have a gift are so gifted in it that they don't realize they are gifted in it. It's like, you do it all the time. And when people say, hey, Joshua, you're really good at doing that. And you're like, no, nothing was. Like, I do it all the time. So being able to receive people's feedback and receive people's compliments. I think in Asia, we are not very good at receiving compliments. When someone says, hey, Joshua, nice shirt, you're like, hey, thanks, nice suit, nice too, you're wearing nice suit too. It's like, you deflect
compliment.
You deflect the compliment by giving it back, right? So when people give you a compliment, receive it and keep a compliment log. Like when you receive a compliment, like just when you have a free time, do a voice message on your phone, say, hey, someone complimented me on this, or you just type it out inside in a little notepad in your phone, or carry a notepad with you and write it down. And when you go home, transfer all of those compliments into maybe an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, it's not so sexy, but just do it, right? Because at the end of the month, when you review all the compliments you receive, you start to notice patterns. You start to realize, oh, these are the things that people compliment me about. And you cannot ignore it. You cannot ignore it by saying, oh, nah, it's nothing, I was just lucky. No, if you receive it long enough, if you receive one compliment, it is just an occurrence. If you receive two, it is maybe a coincidence. If you receive three or more, now that's a pattern, my friend. When you start to see all these patterns, you cannot unsee it. Then you will start to realize, maybe that really is my superpower. So my second tip for you, second step is own your compliments. Listen to it, the compliments, receive it, digest it, take it in, and not note it down.
Love that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And the third thing is experiment. Take time out to experiment. It's like Google allows their employees to take 20% of the time to experiment on some projects that's not related to work. And one of those experiments resulted in Google Map. Same for 3M. They allow their employees to take 15% of the time to experiment. And one of those experiments resulted in the Post-it pad. So take time to experiment. I know you have your work. I know your family commitments. I know you have this and you have that. If you need to take time away from something else, for example, friends, invite you to go out, you're very social, you like to socialize, but experiment something. So even if you love to socialize, maybe that's your superpower. Every time you go socializing, don't just do same old, experiment with something. Maybe today during the socialization, I'm going to ask a question to everyone. I'm going to ask this question: what gives you freedom? Now that's a very deep question to ask, right? And that might be a great question to ask. And so experiment, or find pockets of opportunities to experiment. Because if you don't experiment, how then do you know whether your gift is valued by other people?
That's true.
And once you realize your gift is valued by other people, you'll be compelled to do more and more of it. That's how you lean in and develop your gift.
Fascinating. If I could kind of slide myself in here, like what do you notice about me?
That's a great question. Love it. Joshua, I really think you are a very sensitive person. You are able to pick up a lot of people's cues and emotions from the environment, and you are able to understand people well. And that's why you ask great questions. For example, you ask great questions on this podcast. That's why you ask great questions during your coaching sessions with people, right? And so you are very sensitive in that aspect. The second aspect is that you are a very keen learner. You have a very healthy respect for capable and talented people. when you see someone who is capable and talented, you want to have that same talent too. You want to have that same skills too. And so you have a very hungry mindset to go seek out that learning. And I think that's another very, very admirable trait that I have observed in you.
Oh, thank you, Coen. I embrace what you said.
And you are constantly looking to improve yourself, right? That's why Game On came about, right?
Yeah.
And all the other guests, I've consumed, all the other, podcasts interview in previous to mine, just to understand a little bit more about your podcast, your direction, and the kind of guests that you bring on board. So, I mean, all of them are really wonderful, legit, successful people. A part of me feels like, wow, I'm learning so much from them as well. So I think you're able to invite and bring these people because of that spirit that you have.
Oh. Thank you, Coen. Hearing that means a lot to me.
I mean it.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I hope that our listeners out there are really enjoying this show so far. I've learned so much, and I'm going to go back and listen to this over and over again. Coen, I think what's one thing that I wanted to learn from you, right? You actually wrote in your blog that while maintaining my personal psychological shield, so that I do not absorb the negative emotions, develop this emotional resilience and the ability to manage my own moods. Could you help our listeners to understand how do we develop this emotional resilience and why is it so important?
Oh, wow. Being a very emotional person, I take on a lot of emotions from the people I work with, my clients, and earlier in my career, I didn't know how to deal with this. And so sometimes I unknowingly take on these emotions. And for example, after a day of coaching, and I was going to meet my wife, then was my girlfriend, and she would say something very, innocent, and I would just, flare up and get angry and maybe make a not so nice comment. And after that, when I reflected upon myself, I'm like, what? Why did I say that? Why did I do that? I was feeling very guilty, of course, but I really reflected upon myself and said, oh, maybe I have taken in some negative emotions from people. So I make a very, very conscious effort to constantly guard my feelings, guard my emotions. And so I do not take on emotions from other people. One example of this is a great book. Okay, it's a great book. I highly recommend listeners go read this book. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. The Big Leap, LEAP, by Gay Hendricks. Right. As in HENDRICK.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll put all the books you mentioned in the show notes. Yeah, so our listeners can have access to it easily.
Yeah. So this book by Gay Hendricks says that when people achieve a certain level of success, what they might end up doing something that unknowingly to sabotage themselves. And when I read the book, I had a big aha moment. That so often in my life, when I have achieved a new level of success, a part of me might either get too big-headed, too swell, too complacent, too, maybe arrogant, or maybe at some level, I feel like I do not deserve and I'm not worthy of this newfound success. And I will just somehow find some way to do something stupid to sabotage myself. Like, for example, I would say something dumb and create a conflict with my wife, or say something stupid to piss off a collaboration partner. So because of that awareness, right, even when I have a good day, I will still tell myself to be vigilant over my own emotion. I'm saying, okay, Coen, how are you feeling right now? I'm feeling good. Okay, great. Okay, great. Feel good. Allow yourself to feel good. I'm feeling proud. Great. Feel proud. So I'm always auditing my own emotions. And then I ask myself, okay, good. You're feeling this. Write it down or journal. So I journal a lot. I write down, I journal every day. I reflect. I carve out time to reflect every day. And after that, I ask myself, okay, what am I going to do about it? What can I do with it? Right. So I'll do something, for example, I'm feeling good. Okay, I'm going to anchor that good feeling by going for a run and coming back feeling even better. Or I'm going to anchor that by, having my favorite wine, right? Okay, great. So I feel good about myself, right? So I always try to do something so that the feeling doesn't get stuck in my own head, my own heart, but it gets into real life. I actually have a visceral experience of it. And after that is done, I'll tell myself, okay, let's move on. And then when I move on, I do not carry that emotion with me anymore. I don't feel too good about myself until I become arrogant. Neither when I feel bad, I also don't feel so bad until I carry it with me forever. So I always audit my emotion. And when I audit my emotion, it is ultra important for me because now I still haven't achieved that yet. I mean, I confess, okay, but I'm trying to reach a place of bulletproofing my emotions so that something hurtful or said by somebody else will hurt me. Of course, definitely I'm a human being, but it will not have such a big effect on me that it will bring me down. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. Yeah. So I'm going to allow myself to be hurt, but I'm not going to allow myself to be brought down by that. So that's what I'm trying to achieve in terms of emotional resilience.
Thanks for sharing that, Coen. Bulletproofing your emotions. Wow, that's a very fascinating thought.
I think gratitude is also important. Feeling good and grounding in gratitude is very important. I don't say this lightly because a lot of people do gratitude as a checkbox. It's like every morning I must ask myself, what am I grateful for? So they say, I'm grateful for being alive. I'm grateful for, it becomes very superficial. They just say it without really feeling true gratitude. So it's like they're just doing it as a tick box. For me, when I feel good about myself or I feel good about something, I really need to ground that in gratitude and ask myself, what am I grateful for? And when I have a bad moment, I also ask myself, what am I grateful for? It's very hard, right? I mean, it's easy to be grateful when you had a good moment. It's hard to be grateful when you had bad moments. You'll be blaming, you'll be finding excuses, you'll be justifying, right? But I think it's important to also practice gratitude even in moments of not feeling very good.
Is there a recent example you could raise, where it's negative and you found gratitude in it?
Wow. Actually, recently there was an angry participant in my class. In a workshop I was running. Once again, I'm just going to mask all the details to protect the person. But the person actually was having an argument with his own brother within the class. So his brother was attending class with him. So they were having some kind of a brotherly dispute. So I stepped in to, try to mediate it. And that was when the angry brother stood up, pointed at me, his two fingers pointed at me like a loaded gun and says, Coen Tan, you have no right to butt in here. You have overstepped the mark because yesterday you called me a prideful man.
Wow.
And that was a moment when I had to be very, I had to diffuse the situation because now his anger is turned towards me and the whole class was looking at me.
I wouldn't know what to do in that situation, man. Tell us more. What happened?
And the worst was he was the big boss of the company.
Wow.
Okay. It's sort of a family business. So so he was having a dispute with his brother, and then now he turned his anger towards me. So the first thing that I thought about was actually not myself. The first thing I thought about was him. Because to me, psychological safety is very, very important. Growing up in a family as a child being so sensitive with a lot of conflict, I know from a young age what psychological safety is. So the first thing I thought about was him. He is the boss, the big boss of the company, the CEO of the company. How can I let him down easily? How can I stop him from making a scene of himself? So the first thing I look at him, I soften my eyes, I look at him and I say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for what I said. And then he calmed down. And I said, it wasn't my intention to hurt you. it was actually meant to be a compliment, because when I say a man with pride, I didn't say you're a prideful man. I say you're a man of pride. I didn't exactly say you're a prideful man, but he thought I say he was a prideful man.
Yeah.
So I said a man of pride actually is a compliment, because a man of pride is a man of standards, and it shows in the way you run your operations of your company.
Yeah.
I meant it as a compliment. I really didn't thought that you would take it so bad. So I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
So he come down straight away. He come down straight away and he said, "Thank you for saying that." He felt seen, he felt heard, he felt understood.
Wow.
And I said to him, I'm grateful. I really am grateful for you to bring this up now to me, so that I know that, I've hurt you in the process. If you didn't actually bring it up, I wouldn't know. So I'm grateful for you for giving me this opportunity to resolve this. So are we okay now? And he's like, okay, we are okay now.
Wow.
So during the break, he came up to me and he said, Coen, I really like how you handled the thing. Thank you very much for letting me down easily. And I'm saying, man, it's like, dude, I know we have all been there before. Okay, I didn't say the word dude now, but I said, yeah, I understand. We've all been there before. We've all been angry before. Understand. Yeah. It's okay. It's all fine now. Yeah. So
may I ask, was this how fast was your response? Because it was directed at me, I would just be lost for words, or I could react to defend myself. Like, was what you said after some deep thought, or was it like reactive, or what?
It was almost immediate.
Wow.
But the thought process was, of course, it seems like like Matrix like that. Like, I bent time and I slowed down in slow motion. But it was like that, really. I felt that way. I think it was like I said early on, the previous question about emotional resilience and always auditing your emotions. I've done it too. So like I said, you practice hard the more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in battle. So on a day-to-day basis, I've really been practicing this emotional auditing. So when I went, in the heat of the moment, I was able to straight away engage that mode. I didn't have to think too much. I was able to zoom out to the bigger picture. I have a class to run. I need to maintain my own. It's tempting to think of my own safety only, because everyone's looking at me, right? I feel so embarrassed.
Right.
But I straight away chunked up to my biggest purpose in that room was to serve everyone in the room. I'm a teacher. I'm here to teach. That's my purpose. And when there's any conflict like this, I just want to restore the balance, restore the harmony of the room, so that we all can have a safe environment to continue learning. So that was my highest purpose. And I also asked myself then, with psychological safety in mind, how can I keep this guy safe? Because the reason why he's acting like that is because he's unsafe. People act out because they are anxious or unsafe or hurt, right? So I needed to help him feel safe immediately, because at the end of the day, I am the external trainer. Maybe my reputation may take a hit. Maybe they don't like me. I may have a bad day at work. So be it. But this guy is the CEO of the business, and his employees are all looking at him. He has more to lose, right? So, so my first thought was straight away to protect him. So, So I guess it felt like a long time.
Yeah.
Not went through my mind at the time, but I was able to process very quickly. So a few things, the emotional auditing works helped me a lot. Secondly, is my improv theater training helped me a lot. Because improv is about quick thinking. It's about how you're able to make up the scene as you go along with a scene partner without any script. That's improv theater. You go on stage, no script, give you a context, and you just act out the scene. So I think my improv training really helped me a lot. Of course,
emotional auditing, improv. Okay.
Yeah, I never thought, of course, when I learned improv, I thought when I went to London to learn improv, it was just a fun thing to do. I never thought you would save my ass later.
What would your advice be to me and people, like our listeners, right? Where we want to diffuse such a tense situation, like how do we train ourselves to be like what you did? What are some action steps that we can take?
I think one really good book that you can actually go and read, right, is Never Split the Difference. Although it's a negotiation book, but it is it's a very, very good book to read. What was the name of the author? Chris Voss. Chris Voss is a hostage negotiator. And so he's published a book, Never Split the Difference, and he also teaches negotiation skills on masterclass. So go and, it's fascinating read, because a hostage negotiator is like life and death situation, and they're able to negotiate in those moments. Try to unpack the thought process behind how people negotiate in life and death situation.
Yeah.
If they can do it in that kind of situation, I think my situation wasn't any life and death, it wasn't that bad really. So when you understand the thought process, right, then you can think win-win. Negotiation is not about winning or losing. So how to diffuse a situation? Very often people go into defensive mode or people go into combat mode, because your brain, has this amygdala here. Once you have an amygdala hijack, when you sense danger, it just sends red warnings like dang, 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 and then your entire body is galvanized to fight, to fright or flight. Or do you have fright? You fight or you flight. So I think it's important to slow down the entire process. Meditation helps, mindfulness helps. Emotional audit is my version of mindfulness. And improv training also helps, because it teaches you quick thinking skills, so you are able to think on your feet, and be able to respond to the situation. So I think it works. Different people have different ways of learning this. I cannot give a one-size-fits-all answer, but my recommendation will be some combination of all these. All of these.
Good places to start.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coen. I think this is the point where I will bring in the speed fire questions before concluding this conversation, right? So this is just a series of 5 questions, and you can just answer by reaction, right?
Man, you're talking about improv, right? And now you're
improv.
On the spot.
Yeah, let's test you, man.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Ready, yeah. Okay, let me find that.
Wait. Let me do my emotion audit first now. Kidding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Relax, it's all going to be okay.
What is success for you?
Success for me is about being able to use my unique gift to serve more people, setting people's hearts free, helping people to live their best lives possible.
What is the best compliment you've ever gotten?
Wow, this one is quite emotional. The best compliments I've ever gotten is that Coen understands.
When were you the happiest?
Wow, so many memories ran down memory lane over here. But I think when I'm happiest is it's just a day of training. I did a training one day, and after training I went to play badminton, and I came back home that night. I was doing my daily reflections, and I just started to cry.
Wow.
Like I just cried.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, this is the best day, man. I mean, it's not a fantastic day. It's not like it wasn't the most, it wasn't about money or anything. It's just the moment of like, I'm just exactly where I need to be.
Wow.
I'm exactly doing what I love to do. And I just cried in tears. So beautiful.
Are you happy where you are right now in life, and why?
Very good question. I am happy by and large. As a type 4, sometimes I often think of what's next, what can be better, what's lacking. But I mean, as it is, as you can hear, I'm very happy where I am.
Okay. So Coen, thanks for being on the show with me. I really appreciate it and learned a lot. And I believe our listeners have like a stack of notes that they take already.
Happy to share.
Yeah. I'm really so blessed that you agreed to come on board. And I'd like to ask if our listeners want to know more about what you do, where to find you, what would you say?
Well, you can find me on coentan.com. That'll be my personal website, coentan.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Look for Coen Tan. That is where I actually connect most, on LinkedIn. So send me a connection request. I'm happy to chat. And you can also follow me on Instagram @Coen Tan. In one word.
Cool. Thanks, Coen. And to all our listeners, I believe that this podcast has greatly blessed you. And I would like to throw a question. If you have other topics or other speakers that you'd like to hear from and pick their brains, just send me a DM on my social media handles, be it on LinkedIn, be it on IG, and I'll be happy to hear from you. And also like to hear your thoughts about today's show. And with that, see you in the next podcast. Thank you, Coen.
See you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you, Joshua.